Ew. Scam. Help me. Help. Oh.
Old world is getting to me. There's just no trust, no integrity. So I loaded up the kids, took my wife by the arm, and I moved on out to a Colorado farm. Now it's early to bed, early to rise. The crops are plowed and it's no surprise. City folks are fighting and I don't give a darn, 'cause I make my living on a Colorado farm. I gotta drive the tractor, gotta cut the grass. Chut chut goes the baler like it's never gonna last. There's food in the kitchen and there's blood in the farm. That's life living on a Colorado farm. Ice cold beer, pickup truck, country music, listing shit. We got integrity to keep us warm. That's what you get on a Colorado farm. And I'm gonna stay on a Colorado farm. Shit.
All right, we're back. Happy 420 on the East Coast. Happy 420 wherever you are. Let's light up. We have new Bostonians. Happy 420. We have new light up clips thanks to Tucker Carlson.
Woohoo! It's raison d'etre. Is the cops are bad. Very, very bad. The police are bad and should be abolished.
Yeah, he's a Fox anchor.
Mitch just wants to make sure that Americans understand, get it through their thick heads, that Black Lives Matter. Hello, police. Armed men are breaking into my home. Help! Shut up, racist. Click. Sorry, Mom. I know you're old and alone and miss your grandchildren, but we are shunning you until you send more money to Black Lives Matter.
Those clips will make a lot more sense in a few minutes. Man, a lot of crazy stuff happened this weekend, huh?
I was in the high desert. We were like,
well, okay.
We made a little balcony space, not a balcony, like a. Have you ever seen the '70s show? It reminds me of like a basement space.
What
we made in the garage.
Oh, yeah. You were chilling. You were completely away from like the news and stuff, huh? Well, this thing came about, CHAZ, but then what's more important, I feel like, are people's reactions to it. It's so political now, everything in the United States.
Well, I did hear about CHAZ. I was like, what is that? So I had to look up what it was, because I thought it was like, is that someone's name, like a Chad, like a Karen or something? But it's actually a space.
So I wanted to go over it, but then first I wanted to go over the coverage on it, and it was like the coverage on it is so different depending on where you're going. But so
what do you mean where you're going?
Where you're getting your news from. Yeah. And so if you're getting it from like Fox or CNN or The Guardian.
Yeah.
And so what I wanted to actually cover first is how the BLM movement is being treated, because now it's become politicized, where the Republicans or at least Tucker Carlson is framing it as now they are the enemy. They are like the Democrats and like.
Wait. Who?
Tucker Carlson.
Okay. The guy we just saw. Yeah. The guy we saw.
So let's take a look at this first clip of him talking about the Black Lives Matter movement as a political movement.
America went insane over the weekend. That's barely an overstatement. People in their 80s who have lived in the U.S. all their lives said they'd never seen anything like it. Ask an 80-year-old. This was without precedent in the modern era.
Okay, that's my first issue.
The new iPad? What do you get? What do you get?
No. An 80-year-old would have went through like the Kennedy assassination, the Martin Luther King assassination, like
landing on the moon.
Yeah. So so let's keep going.
A group of highly aggressive, emotionally charged activists took over our culture. They forced the entire country to obey their will. It all happened so fast and with such ferocity that virtually no one resisted it. People seemed bewildered, even stunned by what was happening. We're going to begin tonight in Minneapolis. That's where the Black Lives Matter riots first began almost 2 weeks ago. As the violence there raged, some Democratic leaders in Minneapolis came to a conclusion that didn't, on the surface anyway, make intuitive sense. What their city really needs, they decided, is less law enforcement. In fact, no law enforcement. So they began to demand that Minneapolis, quote, defund the police. Now, the first thing you notice about this idea is how unpopular with the public it is. Almost nobody in the country supports it. But the activists, undeterred, kept pushing the idea, and within days, pressure mounted on the mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Frey, to get rid of his city's police department.
Yes or no, will you commit to defunding Minneapolis Police Department?
Abolition of it?
What did I say?
Defund.
We don't want no more police. Is that clear?
I do not support full abolition.
Okay, so
full abolition is like dismantling the whole. Right?
That was his first mistake. And by the way, if you guys don't know where Minneapolis is, this is the city where George Floyd was killed, and so he is the mayor of that town. And so what his mistake was, she asked him, "Are you in favor of defunding the police?" And right then he should have said yes, because he thought she said abolition, which is not what she said. And so he will say, "I am not for the abolition of police," which is fine.
Defund. She asked. Sounds like he's saying no to her first question.
No, I know, and that's where his mistake was. He should have listened and heard that she said defunded, because then he could have said yes. Mm-hmm. But because he had to say no to the abolition of police, he says, "I do not support the full abolition of the police department." He might be in agreement with what everyone wants, but because he says this, watch what happens.
I know, they took him out. I thought that happened last week.
It did. And this is the unfortunate thing, is like, if he had just heard her, this this would have turned out completely different. Anyways, we just got a minute left, and then we'll talk about it.
What a remarkable piece of tape
But okay,
that
so
is.
can I state, and I keep stating this to people who are like, you know, law and order, same with this Tucker Carlson dude. But I was like, okay, in all honesty though, even like in that state, there's no capital punishment. So what law was he enforcing that he killed the dude? Like he should, you know what I mean? Like, and that's what's happening. A lot of these people are getting killed or beaten or like thrown in jail with no, you know, right?
Yeah.
And it's like they're not enforcing the law. They're breaking the law.
Yes.
And that's our problem. They're the ones breaking the laws.
Yeah, and I think that's the misunderstanding between what the Black Lives Matters movement is doing and what the Republican or what Tucker Carlson thinks they're doing. And so let's keep going with this clip because let's get like his view on what happened.
Has a big city mayor in this country ever been more thoroughly humiliated? Get the F out of here, she screams, go! Well, the correct answer to that, needless to say, is up yours, lady. I'm not going anywhere. I run this city. Do you doubt that the entire crowd would have cheered Jacob Frey if he'd said that? People always admire resolve, even when they disagree with the point of view.
Okay, so what he says, where he says that lady should have, or he should have been like, F you, lady, I run this town. It's like, isn't that a basic misunderstanding of what a public servant is?
Yes.
And so let's keep going.
But that's not what Jacob Frey did. Frey slunk away like a child caught doing something filthy. The most telling moment, though, came just before that, when the woman in sunglasses threatened to defeat the mayor in the next election. What does that tell you? It tells you that Black Lives Matter is, in fact, a political party, maybe the strongest political party in the United States as of tonight. Its members believe they can reshape this country, and so far, they're proving to be right.
So there's nothing inherently wrong with that, to like run for a seat and like unseat someone because you think you can do a better job.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. Well, what is it? So he doesn't want, he's against it being a political thing. What is a protest if not political?
Yeah. And so
what does he think these protests are about?
I know, that's the thing. What does he think the protests are about? If you don't, yeah, that's the question. If you don't think it's about like, you know, like police brutality,
something political, like something that needs to be changed in legislation or whatever, isn't that what they're pushing for?
Well, let's see. Okay, so he has more opinions on how the BL, like the Black Lives Matter movement, turns also somehow colludes with like the Democrats. Mm-hmm. Let's take a look at this clip.
Again, all of this probably strikes you as wild-eyed craziness, flat Earth stuff. Eliminate the police? Really? But things change fast. Look at how quickly they changed just over the weekend. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who is a skilled trend spotter, if there ever was one, is already acting as if defund the police, again, a proposal that no sane person even mentioned in public just last month, is now the defining civil rights issue of our time. You'd have to be a bigoted dinosaur, a bad person to oppose it.
This is one of those moments. This right now is one of those moments. So if you're an elected official that for any reason is on this call, I'm asking you to ask yourself, what are you willing to sacrifice to make sure that overfunded police departments are defunded?
So think about what you just saw. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez isn't just a member of Congress. She's maybe the most famous member of Congress. She's also a surrogate for Joe Biden. So a lot is on the line here.
He says she's also a surrogate for Joe Biden. And what she said was overfunded police departments should be defunded. But if Tucker Carlson knew what Joe Biden's position on this was, he would know that Joe Biden wants to increase community police funding by $300 million.
Joe wants to increase the funding.
Right. So the fact that he groups them together on this issue it's insane. Let's keep going.
Ocasio-Cortez didn't say that accidentally. She had a reason for saying it. Why did she say that? What is going on here? Well, as usual, the truth bears no resemblance whatsoever to what they're telling you. Think about it for just a second. Democratic politicians control the police departments of virtually every big city in this country. Now they're telling you they want to get rid of those police departments. If they did, that would mean less power for themselves. So right away, you know there's lying going on. Democrats do not relinquish power voluntarily, ever, period. Republicans frequently do. Democrats never do. So that's the first thing to know. Something obviously is going on here beneath the surface. This has to be an attempt to increase the power of the Democratic Party because every policy they push is, always.
Wait, okay. So his whole thing is the Democrats control the police and the Democrats want to defund the police.
Why does he think the Democrats control the police? Well, I don't understand where that.
Yeah, I don't know.
He thinks Democrats control all police departments?
Yeah.
The Department of Justice.
I'm trying to follow his logic. I'm trying to follow his logic too, to be honest. But that's what it is, right? Democrats control the police and Democrats want to defund the police. And he's saying Democrats don't relinquish power willingly. There's a game here, right? And so
yeah, so he's trying to find some kind of theory to this stuff where it's
to kind of connect.
Wait. Where did you get that Democrats control who again?
All right, well, let's keep going. So that's where he was, right? Democrats control.
They don't want to relinquish, so there must be a scam.
Yeah,
that's what he's saying.
Yeah, what's the game here?
There's a game that must be uncovered.
Okay, so it seems like we're all on the same page. Democrats control the police, and Democrats want to defund the police. What's the game?
And in fact, that's exactly what's happening here. Democrats have no intention of abolishing the police. Listen carefully, and you will hear them admit that. Instead, they want to replace the police. Take the people who currently have badges, many of whom, by the way, voted for Donald Trump, and swap them out for new people who hate Donald Trump and people who...
So all the police right now, even though they're controlled by the Democrats, all voted for Trump?
Yeah, that's Tucker Carlson's hot take on it. He's like...
Then how do the Democrats control the police?
Good question. I'm not Tucker Carlson, so I don't know the answer.
Voted for Donald Trump. That's what's actually happening here. And it makes sense. Law enforcement is one of the very few institutions remaining in this country that the left does not yet control. Democrats hate the police because they don't control the police.
What? He's everywhere on this.
Said,
I don't get it.
They control the police. Okay, they don't control the police.
Yes, now they don't control the police. So, mission accomplished.
Very simple. You remember 35 years ago when Democrats were constantly attacking the U.S. military? Well, you don't hear that anymore. Why is that? It's very simple. The left took over the Pentagon. No reason to attack people you control, which they do.
You just said they don't...
What?
Okay, let's keep going.
They plan to do the same thing to your local police department. Let's be clear. What Democrats are proposing isn't some form of radical libertarianism where the cops leave and citizens police their own neighborhoods. No, it's the opposite of that. What they're proposing is a power grab. Defund the police is a move toward authoritarian social control cloaked in the language of identity politics.
God, but they
already in the middle of a total breakdown of law and order. As we watch our cities burn, you are seeing new moves to prevent you from defending yourself and your family in the middle of it.
Oh my God. What do you call it? I think you call it a volteo tortilla.
They're not trying to take away your rights to guns. They're trying to take away...
Oh, you want to bet?
Oh,
Where is that? Oh, shoot. I have a clip. Yeah, this is it. He does say they want to take your guns. So let's take a look at this clip.
Just last Tuesday, Marjorie Greene, who was running for Congress in Georgia, posted this ad on Facebook, and within 2 days, Facebook pulled it down.
I have a message for Antifa terrorists. Stay the hell out of Northwest Georgia. You won't burn our churches, loot our businesses, or destroy our homes.
So Facebook has a policy against violence, not the violence engulfing our cities, but the violence of you defending your family. They create the chaos. You're not allowed to defend yourself. You are, in other words, and this is of course the point, wholly dependent upon them.
Okay, so Facebook, and I think content platforms in general, if you show weapons, they'll take it down without question. And I know this because
the one with the gun.
Yeah, we've uploaded a lot of thumbnails on YouTube, and only one of them has ever been taken down, and it was one that was showing a gun, and a police officer was holding it. But and it wasn't anything like suggesting violence, and neither was that ad really.
Remember the emoji had to change?
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. There is a very sensitive. There's sensitivity around the image of guns now, and so he takes that ad takedown as a sign of like the Democrats are coming for your right to defend yourself. Isn't that insane? Facebook takes down an ad, and his immediate thought is
the Democrats control Facebook.
No. It's like they're coming for your right to defend yourself. You can't even post an ad about like your Second Amendment rights, or else that's not allowed. And it's like, oh my God, like that's it's just the amount of mental
grasping.
Really, it really is.
I don't know what that is, but
okay, let's keep going with this clip.
In the future, the left envisions the only people who will have guns are people on their team. And that's exactly what defund the police really means. It means a woke militia policing our cities, enforcing Democratic Party orthodoxy. Imagine if the Diversity and Inclusion Department at Brown University had the power to arrest you. Imagine if the Black Lives Matter rioters had weapons and immunity from prosecution.
Like cops.
That's what they're talking about. Partisan law enforcement. And partisan law enforcement, incidentally, is hardly without precedent. In fact, it's the rule in the third world. This is an attempt to bring it here.
Did they ever cover like the Michigan and the protests just a couple months ago against the shutdown?
I mean,
who showed up with guns?
Even
and, like the police didn't do, like.
Even if you just rewind back what he said, it's like, you think that the left or the Democrats want to defund the police so that they can arm their own side and start walking the streets?
Their own side?
No, that's what he's saying. He's like they only want armed people that have like the Democratic like philosophy or whatever to be armed. And he's like, and it's like, is that what you really think the defund the police movement is about? Is about arming their own side?
Who knows? He just wants I just don't think he doesn't want the change that they're proposing at all. So
yeah, well, he makes I don't know, Black Lives Matter is about an issue where people are where black people are basically the victims of police brutality. And so but then he seems to think it's all about like politics. And so let's take a look at.
I think the big disconnect is also white people and black people don't even call the cops for the same things or reasons that each other.
Absolutely.
Do. You know what I mean? Like that. I think that this dude doesn't know, has never had to look at a police.
Well, of course he hasn't.
So he can't understand it. That's why maybe he is grasping for such weird.
Yeah, but he's creating an enemy out of them, which is something I don't like. So let's take a look at this clip first.
It's hard to overstate how vicious the crackdown on free speech and free thought has been in the last few days. Here's the new rule, and it defines everything. You are not allowed to question Black Lives Matter in any way. Full stop. That rule has been enforced without mercy everywhere, and not just in this country. In Vancouver, a men's basketball coach was fired for liking a tweet that questioned Black Lives Matter. Meanwhile, a player on the LA Galaxy, that's the professional soccer team in Los Angeles, was fired because his wife said something critical online. Not him, he didn't do it. His wife. Doesn't matter. They canned the player anyway. Imagine being a high school student right now.
I mean, people, like there are viral videos now of people treating like black people like garbage in the street, like delivery drivers or that one lady in Central Park who was like choking her dog while screaming at a black man and calling the police. And it's like, it's not that criticizing Black Lives Matter is forbidden. It's that when you speak about it, it shows what side you're on.
Well, it shows the other side of the coin, which is white supremacy.
Right. No, I know. And
You know,
see,
so it's very offensive to people who have to say then that also exists. If they believe what Black Lives Matter is stating, then they have to confront the white supremacy.
Right. And he seems to think
for some people that's too.
Yeah, so he seems to think it's just any criticism about Black Lives Matter is now untouchable, but it's not
criticism within Black Lives Matter.
No, but it's not that. It's just the punishment for, I guess, the for humoring on, for being on that side, which is of white supremacy, is ostracizing. It's like, we want nothing to do with you if that's your mentality. And
at least they're still alive.
Right.
At least they can still breathe.
All right, let's keep going.
School students who refused to show affirmative support for Black Lives Matter on their Instagram accounts were shunned by their friends. Journalists who asked too many questions about the group were fired or silenced. Again, not an exaggeration. Now, you'd think people in the media would resent this. Presumably some
Like
do.
you?
But almost everybody stayed quiet about it. They were too afraid. And some applauded. The New York Times ran an op-ed demanding that people disown their own families if their families fail to support Black Lives Matter enthusiastically enough. Tell your relatives, tell your friends, the author wrote, that, quote, you will not be visiting or answering phone calls until they take significant action in supporting Black lives through protest or financial contributions, end quote. Got that? Sorry, Mom. I know you're old and alone and miss your grandchildren, but we are shunning you until you send more money to Black Lives Matter.
Who's doing what?
Where does he get these stories?
That was from the New York.
But there are a lot of people fighting about this because they're like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know you were such a bigot!" And it's like, "Oh,
yes."
You know, like.
And I think that's the more common story. He's making it seem like if you don't support them financially, then you're a bigot or you're a racist or you're somehow on their side. You know?
Yeah. Like it's being forced on them. He almost feels like
for acceptance. Yeah, it's like if you don't support this cause financially, like you're not one of us.
In an environment like this, we've never lived in an environment like this, but you can imagine, in an environment like this, most people get the message very fast. And the weak ones are quick to join in, just like the good little red guards they've always been underneath it all. Here's Mitt Romney on the march.
A way to end violence and brutality and to make sure that people understand that Black Lives Matter.
Mitt just wants to make sure that Americans understand, get it through their thick heads, that Black Lives Matter. As if Americans didn't know that. But accusing your entire country of racism turns out to be a pretty small price for someone like Mitt Romney.
What?
It's called the laws. It's called systemic. They're not calling the whole country. It's like we could just fix the things that are very obviously like.
So this is insane because Mitt Romney is a declared Republican and Fox News is a conservative news channel, and so he's calling out basically anyone who joins the Black Lives Matter movement. They're calling the country racist.
Yeah, he's like,
what kind of reporting is that?
Generalizing them all now. It's like, it's not just the Democrats.
No, so he's basically defining any.
And they're red underneath. Or
yeah, so what he's saying is anyone who the Black Lives movement is calling America racist, and anyone who joins it is calling America racist. That's what Tucker Carlson's saying.
I think the whole world is calling America racist.
Yeah. All right, 38 seconds. Let's go.
What Romney's really worried about, what all the finance moguls funding this movement are worried about, is that someone somewhere will ask the obvious questions. How much have you, Mitt Romney, personally made? How rich have you become by sending jobs overseas, working class jobs, by charging obscene interest rates, and by otherwise harming poor and black communities economically? All the basic crimes are economic. Mitt Romney doesn't want to talk about that at all, so he marches. And Black Lives Matter couldn't be happier about it. The complicity of people like Mitt Romney gives groups like Black Lives Matter strength.
Does he think that the Black Lives movement is because started because jobs were being shipped overseas?
I don't know. I don't know why he brought that up. Like, But he did recognize that most poor people are the black community. Like,
yeah, but
they've been, and it is an economic issue.
It's like he wants to paint Mitt Romney as like a hypocrite somehow, but the way he frames it, it's like that has nothing to do with the movement that he's a part of. Mm-hmm. Like, it's and
he
so
just wants to say he's a bad character all around. So it's not valid that he stands behind Black Lives Matter.
Right, and I've seen other things Tucker Carlson has done, and I used to respect his reporting a little more, now not so much, but so I know he's not
normally
stupid.
Like he's all over the place with his arguments, or like his
and it's like he's making such an effort to like paint this as somehow like a crime against America to be part of this movement. Anyway, so he talks about how it's not about Black lives. And I don't know if this is like woke or out of touch. You tell me. Let's take a look.
Even the outlines
I don't know.
Are blurry at this point, but we know this. No matter what they tell you, it has very little to do with Black lives, if only it did. If Democratic leaders cared about saving the lives of Black people, and they should, they wouldn't ignore the murder of thousands of young Black men in their cities every year. They wouldn't put abortion clinics in Black neighborhoods. They would instead do their very best to improve the public schools and to encourage intact families, which we know beyond a shadow of a doubt is central to the life prospects of children.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Isn't that what the defund the police movement is about? Is taking money that would normally go to police to go to other community resources like police,
the city budget. And since so much budget and responsibility are going to the police, they're saying put that back into counseling in the schools or like whatever.
Jesus Christ, like you just came up with a solution, Tucker. Good job. Let's keep going.
They try to make Black neighborhoods as safe as their own neighborhoods. They would close the payday lenders that add so much misery to the lives of poor people of all colors. But they don't even consider doing any of this. They don't even try.
They're trying now.
So they encourage theft and mayhem as if that will help. It will not help.
They know it won't.
This may be a lot of things, this moment we're living through, but it is definitely not about Black lives. And remember that when they come for you, and at this rate, they will.
It's not about Black lives. That's insane that he would say that to me. It's like, what?
Well, I get what he is, I think, stating what poor, like when he's saying it is an economic thing, I think that is you don't have to be Black, like you said, to feel.
Yeah, but did you to feel to feel
everything going on right now, not just being hit hard by the pandemic and whatever. You don't have to be Black to be hit harder than most of the rich people.
Yeah, but you do have to be Black to get like a no-knock arrest, to be like shot in your sleep, or to have like a cop like lay on your neck for 9 minutes. So
under 9, you have to over 8 minutes.
All right, I'll step on his neck and let's see if he can tell the difference between 15 seconds. So let's look at this last clip because it's going to really tell you what Carlson thinks about America.
Is this the guy that talks to the president?
Yeah, he talks to him directly. So let's take a look at this clip.
Tell the truth. And the truth is, this is a good country, better than any other. Of course we are flawed, but we are trying, unlike most places, and we have nothing to be ashamed of, none of us. Immigrants know that best of all. That's why they come here. 1 million new Americans every year. They're not coming because America is a racist country. They're coming because it's not. That's all true.
Well, I don't think they're thinking about race. They're just thinking we're a country for opportunity.
Oh, yeah, Jesus.
The immigrants. Opportunity. Racism isn't in... Like most immigrants, when they think of America, it's just like the land of milk and honey, of opportunity, and it doesn't matter where you come from. But then once you get here, it's like, holy crap, check your color.
Yeah, I know. It's like the immigrants who
and how
come
you speak,
here,
how educated you are,
the immigrants who come here usually are coming from a place that is so harsh. It's like their skin color is secondary to their living condition of where they previously lived.
Well, except the ones that are coming in,
but that doesn't
student visas,
right. But just because race isn't an issue to immigrants coming in doesn't mean race isn't an issue in America.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But he's, I don't, yeah. I'm like, I think.
He's severely out of touch.
Well, it's just he's in the U.S. And maybe.
Well, let's.
But they travel.
I know. Let's calm down by looking at a clip of what he really thinks about the BLM.
It's raison d'etre. Is the cops are bad. Very, very bad. The police are bad and should be abolished. Mitt just wants to make sure that Americans understand, get it through their thick heads, that Black Lives Matter. Hello, police. Armed men are breaking into my home. Help! Shut up, racist. Click. Sorry, Mom. I know you're old and alone and miss your grandchildren, but we are shunning you until you send more money to Black Lives Matter.
You tell her, Tucker.
Oh, I don't think I've once been threatened. About
About what?
Giving to Black Lives Matter.
You've never had to show your commitment to a movement by giving money?
I just have to
You've never been a part of a church?
that I'm not
Just kidding.
trying to uphold an idea that lost.
Okay.
That is so non-American.
So let's get to the story I wanted to cover. CHAZ.
Oh, so this isn't just a name of somebody, right?
No. I mean, it'd be a great time to be named CHAZ, I feel like. It's such a cool name.
I thought maybe it was a place in Arizona, and I was trying to figure out what's CH Arizona. What city is that?
CHAZ
It is in Washington.
Is a new country in the United States, according to Tucker Carlson. Okay, so
How
CHAZ,
is it a new country?
I know. Okay, so CHAZ,
Is it an Indian? Okay,
depending on who's covering it, like, right-wing media source and then left-wing media source, you're gonna get a different view on it. And so since you haven't seen any of it, I want to cover how Tucker Carlson covered it, and then we'll go on what Trump said about it, and then we'll go into some clips actually
Tucker
inside.
Carlson?
No.
Sorry. Okay.
I don't know. He just keeps popping up on my YouTube, and so I'm like, okay, let's watch it.
Oh, okay.
So let's see how Fox and Fox in general has covered this like this, and so let's see how they've been covering it, and so you can get an idea of what a Fox viewer would imagine it's like.
We want to begin tonight with a geography quiz. Here it is. How many countries are there on Earth? Last week, there were a total of 195. But if you guessed that, you're wrong, because tonight, there are 196. Ladies and gentlemen, say hello to the latest addition to the global family of nations, the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, formerly known as downtown Seattle.
City Hall! Our City Hall! City Hall! Our City Hall! Do your best to lose your job. Do your best to lose your job.
Is this where the kid was maced or sprayed, pepper sprayed?
Point is, in the end, this is our street, it's our station. Whose street?
They took over a precinct?
Well, that looks pretty appealing, but before you jump on Expedia to book a trip with the family to the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, now known, by the way, as CHAZ, the country's Tourism and Economic Development Department is calling it that, you should know that there are no beaches in CHAZ. This is a tiny nation. It's smaller than Liechtenstein. The entire country extends only 6 city blocks. It was built on land that was formerly owned in part by the Seattle Police Department, but the founders of CHAZ wanted that land. So they planted a flag and they stole it, just like the conquistadors. The first thing they did after
the Americans.
Yay!
Yeah, so a bunch of protesters
colonization
ended up occupying a police precinct and like 3 blocks around it. So it's pretty small. Did you have something?
Huh?
Did you have something you want to say?
Oh no, I wanted to research this area.
Okay.
What? How did But because I thought the Seattle police were getting down on the protesters.
Yeah, let's keep going with this.
So how did they let this happen?
And this was a bit of a surprise, given that these modern conquistadors claim to be progressive ideologues. But the first thing they did was establish rigid national borders. They built a wall around the place, just like Donald Trump once said he would do.
like
Their
Americans.
wall is made from wooden barricades. A sign at the entrance to the country warns, "You are now leaving the USA." And then there are armed border guards, not technically
Is this
ICE
the guy they
agents,
keep?
but close
Stop.
enough,
Can you pause? He has been called out.
Oh yeah, they keep photoshopping the
this
same guy in
dude
different pictures.
in so many of his articles. I'm like, he's still getting away with it. Look how badly photoshopped it is. I'm just kidding. It's not badly, but
It kind of, yeah. All right, let's keep going.
Everyone seeking entry. Countries have borders, and the founders of CHAZ understood that. They don't want the place flooded with illegals. And by illegals, we mean the citizens of Seattle.
We have been hearing from community members that they have been subjected to barricades set up by the protesters, with some armed individuals running them as checkpoints into the neighborhood.
Well, that's pretty smart. You can't let just anyone into your country. An uncontrolled flood of immigrants would tank the economy, and the people of CHAZ know that. They're not libertarians. They don't work for the Chamber of Commerce. They're not giving you some speech about how immigration makes you richer. They're realists. They want to make this work for the sake of their people. And they don't have much to work with. What exactly is the economy of CHAZ? It's tough. With limited natural resources and a population with virtually no skills of any kind, apart from spray painting the F word on public buildings, they lead the world in that.
Burn.
People of
their
CHAZ don't
prisoners
have
set
a lot
free.
of options for economic development. So they've gone with extortion through violence. Again, just like the conquistadors. It's a time-tested formula, and it's lucrative.
We have heard anecdotally reports of citizens and businesses being asked to pay a fee to operate within this area. This is the crime of extortion.
Well, like the
have to keep going
nation
that
it
far
broke
back in
from,
history.
its mother nation, the United States, the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone is what political philosophers call a proposition nation. It's a country based on an idea rather than particular people. The founding idea in CHAZ, its Magna Carta, its Constitution, its raison d'etre, is that cops are bad. Very, very bad. The police are bad and should be abolished. So not surprisingly, CHAZ has banned police from its territory.
That's how mafia works. So, do you have an image in your head of what CHAZ is? He makes it sound like it's like a...
you remember
like
the
a
Oregon
nation.
takeover?
He makes it
Those
sound
gun
like...
people who took over the national forest for a while, and there was like a whole like
Yeah, he makes it
'cause
sound...
they wanted to make that
He
nation.
absolutely makes it sound like that. He's like, there's checkpoints, there's armed border. They don't want, they build walls and barricades. So let's see Trump's
Are they
response
armed?
on the situation. Yes, they are. But let's see what Trump says
We've
about
had
it.
this happen in our state.
These people have taken over a vast part, a major part, a very good part of a place called Seattle. Seattle's big stuff. That's a major city. And we have a governor who's a stiff, and we have a mayor who said, oh, this is going to be a love fest. And by the way, these are violent people that took it over. These are not people that are nice people. I saw on your network today, John. I saw what went on with the hitting and the punching and the beating and all the other things going on in Seattle. And you have a governor that doesn't do a damn thing about it. And you have a mayor
talking
that
about the
doesn't know
police
she's
beatings?
alive. She's talking about it's going to be a love fest this summer. Now, if they don't do the job, I'll do the job. And I've already spoken to the Attorney General about it. But if they don't do the job, we will do the job. What can you do?
National Guards?
About 10 different things, any one of which will solve the problem quickly.
I wonder how many of them involve nukes.
He would not nuke his own people.
Well, I don't know. Can you come up with 10 different solutions on how to deal with them? One of them not being nukes?
Well, he's probably used to being given a bunch of options. And he's just like, they just need to handle it. Yeah, like what, but I don't know.
All right, so let's take a look at what it looks like inside CHAZ, because so far we've just gotten reporting on it.
Trump.
Wow, that sucks.
It's like, we don't want to destroy the whole infrastructure, guys. We just want to change the legal, the paper crap, the law stuff. We don't want to rip up our roads. And
you've listened to what the other guy who said before, who mans the barricades. He's like, we don't really stop anyone from coming in. We're open,
Mm-hmm.
And then this guy says, there are bad actors who, just want to fuck shit up.
But they come in and they fix it, is what he does.
Yeah, and
they
that's the thing. It's
come and
like
paint, and they come in and try to.
it's like their idea of inclusion also like they also have to fix like the bad mistakes that are happening within themselves. But then like they don't have to rely on the police for that. They can do it themselves.
That's what they want to prove.
It's like
they want to prove that they can allow life to go on with and protest without such harsh measures.
Yeah, and they can do community policing.
Yeah. Oh, it's hilarious when some people realize what Rage Against the Machine lyrics were about.
But so
like it would be like Tucker Carlson, who's like, "Yeah, I love Rage Against the Machine," and then he'd be like, "Oh, they are weak," and they turn to the other side with BLM, and it's like, what did you think their songs were about?
But you know, when you listen to how like Tucker Carlson like explained it, and he's like they're extorting people, and you know, it's like they're checking people in, and you know they're not allowing like they can't allow immigrants in, and then you actually
explained Cuba to me before I moved to Cuba.
Yeah, and then you actually look at it, and you're like, it looks kind of nice. Like I would visit. I kind of want to visit.
No, I feel like the governor of Washington it's like a love fest.
I think that's the mayor. I think that's what the mayor said. It's going to become something like that in the summer. So I thought
that's what it kind of looks like. There's music and they like farmers market. You know what I mean? There's
yeah. So I wanted to end with this clip of Tucker Carlson talking about it, and just let me know if you think he's taking it just a little too seriously.
There are questions, though, unresolved. For example, what will happen to the American citizens who may have been shopping downtown in Seattle and are now stuck behind the border of CHAZ? Can we repatriate them? Are they now prisoners of war? These are questions of international diplomacy at this stage, but the mayor has not addressed them. She did say tonight that CHAZ is really like a block party.
Yeah.
You can't leave now. You're stuck. You got to party with us forever.
Yeah, yeah, you.
Oh, Tucker, you need to go to a good party.
I would. Man, yeah. Well, that's CHAZ.
Oh.
It looks fun. I would seriously like considering going to Seattle.
I would once the pandemic's over.
It's like I know. It's like, can I visit in a scuba suit?
There's a pandemic, guys. Scuba suit. Oh,
they're like, we're either gonna die from shelter in place because our businesses are going out of business, or we go out and try to make our own community. I think they understand the risk because a lot of them are wearing masks.
They say vaccines coming out, but I feel bad because a lot of these other people that don't believe in wearing masks don't believe in vaccines. I'm like,
all right, you wanna go through some okay, let's go through some economic news. Do you know what's
U.S. American economic? Or I guess it's kind of global. Like
this
local,
is
more local.
The Rising has an update on it, and it reminded me a lot about the 2008 crash. It's like strikingly similar, like down to the name of the product that crashed the market the first time, which was a CDO, collateralized debt obligation, which is a bunch of bad mortgage loans bundled together.
They weren't supposed to, I mean, okay, yeah, they were.
All right,
bad.
so anyways, let's look at this clip because we're going to explain that really quick. So, but let's look through the clip first. This is the update on what's going on in American economics today and why we should be seeing a crash like now. So here's the Rising explaining
At the same time, in a piece in Atlantic, they are raising the alarms about a potential banking collapse, similar to what we saw back in 2008. So let me explain this a little bit. So you remember back in 2008 with the housing crisis, the sort of main financial villain in that story was these collateralized debt obligations, which were just basically you take these distressed mortgages, you bundle them all up, subprime mortgages, bundle them all up, sell them around. They got rated, very highly rated by the credit ratings agencies, even though they were not solid assets. And that was what really led to the whole systemic collapse of the banking system. Okay, so banks have moved away from CDOs, collateralized debt obligations, and they have moved into CLOs, which are collateralized loan obligations, which are basically the same thing, only it's loans to troubled businesses. Businesses that have maxed out their ability to borrow in other ways. Well, you can imagine.
Right, which are the businesses which go under first in this?
I've been getting offers for these types of loans in emails.
Yeah. It's the only product left to sell, so let's keep going.
Oh.
During a crisis such as we're facing now.
Yeah.
Now, a couple things that might ameliorate that concern. Number one, because of reforms that were passed, these banks are better capitalized than they were at the time. But the individual who did this analysis went in and looked at the amount of, the percentage that the largest banks in the world with the most systemic risk hold of these CLOs, and it's 60% of capital on hand is made up of CLOs, so that is a significant risk. You have a similar dynamic with the credit ratings agencies giving these very high ratings that this analyst does not believe is merited. So massive risk here as businesses go under, and something we've talked about here on the show, whether it's with housing and people not being able to pay their rent, not being able to pay their mortgages, and the domino effect that has. David Dane's covered that effectively very, very well. Or something like this, businesses going under, not being able to pay back their loans, and the way that that ricochets around the financial system. Because the whole economy is so financialized, there is a massive potential domino effect here.
Yeah.
So
yeah, because business lending is very different from personal and residential, or like even business assets, business loans.
So let's break that down
differently than I don't know what the other one is called. Personal?
Or
regular, like
mortgage. So let's break that down really quick. So a CLO is basically a product where if you take out a business loan, someone on the other side is basically buying that loan. They're the one funding the loan, right?
Yes.
And so those come in the form of like pensions, retirement, because when you invest in your retirement or like a pension or a product that grows, it doesn't just like sit there. It's spent
invested.
It's invested as a loan, either a mortgage or a business loan, and then the interest that they pay on that loan is the interest you see when you retire and your pension is like matures. So that's how it should work. And so what the CDO is for the mortgage crisis, and what a CLO is now, let's take a look at from this clip from The Big Short.
Yeah, I feel like they just keep changing the words every time it happens.
They do.
Like, you're just covering the same thing, but you called it different.
Yeah, so let's see Ryan Gosling explain this for us.
Keep up with it.
This is your basic mortgage bond. All right? The originals were simple. They were just thousands of AAA mortgages bundled together, guaranteed by the U.S. government. The modern ones are different. They're private, and they're made up of layers of tranches.
Tranche is a French word meaning a portion of something.
The highest level AAAs getting paid first, the lowest rated Bs getting paid last, taking on defaults first. Now, obviously, if you're buying Bs, you can make more money, but they're a little risky. Sometimes they fail. Chris?
That's why they got higher interest. That's why they...
Okay, so what this is you take a bunch of business loans, and then that creates a bond, which is called a CLO, a collateralized loan obligation. And so each individual part or tranche of the bond, which is made up of thousands of these business loans, is rated. So there's Bs, which are the ones on the bottom, which are the riskiest but have the best interest or the best payout. And then, they go up to double Bs, triple Bs, As, up to triple As, right?
Triple A's at the top are the best
rated,
ones.
right?
The ones that they always pay back, but is probably low interest.
So in these,
the safest.
Yeah. So in these bonds, which are made up of thousands of these business loans, they're going to explain if 8% of the loans in the bond default, the entire bond is worthless because it's not going to make up enough for anyone to make up their money.
Margin.
8%, yeah. And so, okay.
I thought it would be like 20% on the bad ones or something because they're going to default.
Bonds don't yield that much. So it's not that forgivable. Oh,
because they're a bunch. There's so many.
Yeah, bonds aren't like stocks.
Yeah.
So let's take a look. Let's keep going into this clip.
Somewhere along the line, these B's and double B's went from a little risky to dog shit. Where's the trash? I'm talking rock bottom FICO scores. No income verification. Adjustable rates, dog shit. The default rates are already up from 1% to 4%, fellas.
So what he's saying, what he basically explained was the bottom of the bottom loans in the tranches went from risky to absolute dog shit, meaning they didn't verify FICO scores. They were called ninja loans. No income verification.
I remember. That was when I
no
almost
asset
bought
verification.
The first condo in Yorba Linda.
Yeah, no job verification. So they're not
countrywide.
The people who are rating these bonds aren't even verifying that these bonds are worth the rating that they're given. And so the people,
There's too many of them.
So the people who are investing in these, they think they're investing in a AAA rated bond when really it's dog shit.
See on the top.
Yes. So let's keep going.
And if they rise to 8%, and they will, a lot of these triple Bs are going to 0 too. And that, you're too close, is an opportunity.
Okay, you're saying that at 8% the bonds fail, and we are already at 4%?
That's right.
If they go to 8, it's Armageddon.
Yeah, that's right.
How come nobody's talking about this?
So that means if it goes to 8, everyone who's invested in that bond, which could be like teachers' pensions or like retirement funds for nurses, like because bonds are a type of investment that's supposed to be secure. They're not like stocks where you can, the value fluctuates and it's volatile.
Safe, slow growth.
U.S. Treasury bonds are supposed to be the most secure
10 years
investment.
Later, 30 years later.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If just 8% fails, everyone loses their money. And that's what they're saying. It's like, if this gets up to 8%, it's Armageddon. It's like all of these people who are saving up their entire lives are going to lose their savings.
We saw that.
Yeah. That's what's happening now.
No one.
Well, but people invested in business.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, exactly. The difference is people invested
in a different market.
Yes.
And that market's about to crash too.
Yes.
Again.
Paying attention because the banks are too busy getting paid obscene fees to sell these bonds. You want me to really blow your mind? When the market deems a bond too risky to buy, what do you think we do with it? Take a guess.
I don't know. You tell me.
All right. You think we just warehouse it on the books? No. We just repackage it with a bunch of other shit that didn't sell and put it into a CDO.
A CDO?
Yes, a CDO.
What is that?
This is where we take a bunch of Bs, double Bs, and triple Bs that haven't sold, and we put them in a pile. And when the pile gets large enough, the whole thing is suddenly considered diversified. And then the whores at the rating agency give it a 92, 93% AAA rating. No questions asked.
So
no
what
regulatory.
So what he just explained, what we saw before wasn't actually a CLO. That was just a regular bond.
That was from before.
No, that's just a regular well-rated, good-rated bond, right? By actual rated. So what he's saying is, what happens to the bonds that don't sell? They don't just offload them. They put all of the bonds that don't sell, they put them together. All of a sudden, that's considered diversified. The shittiest loans out there is considered diversified. The credit rate agency gives it like a 92%. And then
it's a variety.
Right. And so they're selling dog shit. or
that won't make the 8%. It won't.
Yeah.
It will fail the 8% thing.
Absolutely it will, and they're still selling it.
Because they're putting together
it's basically guaranteed to default, and they're selling it. And so watch.
Because they don't want it to just rot on the shelves.
Yeah, they just like we can't. It's free real estate. We got to sell it. Anyways, let's watch Steve Carell explain it.
Say that again.
A collateralized debt obligation. It's important to understand because it's what allowed a housing crisis to become a nationwide economic disaster.
So mortgage bonds are dog shit. CDOs are dog shit wrapped in cat shit.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Institutions treat these CDOs like they're as solid as treasury bonds, and they're going to zero.
That's it. Institutions are treating these bonds as if they're as solid as treasury bonds, and they're going to zero.
But they're the junk I mean, they're
Yes.
not, they're junk bonds. They're just.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's
they're just the bonds that you need to flip and move quick.
We got more to this story, so let's celebrate our 420 really quick. This will be our light up clip because it has to do with what we're watching, and then we'll go into how we are already
starting the next cycle.
The Fed already knows what's going on, and they're trying to prevent it from happening. But anyways,
again,
it's 420 out somewhere. It's so.
Jared,
this is our light up clip.
It's chaos down here. Where are we?
And Caesar wept for there were no more worlds.
This clip will make sense later.
Shane?
Happy 420.
Well, nobody's buying CDO or mortgage bonds anymore, and everybody wants
swaps. Swaps are now the most popular product on the street.
That's good for us.
It's from The Big Short. You guys should watch this movie if you haven't.
Heard from somebody. No, Alex. No. Sorry. Benny Klieger over at
Morgan is taking on some heavy losses in the bond department. Your ship might be taking on water. Might be time to get a life jacket and get out.
Holy shit.
I'm jacked.
Holy shit.
I'm jacked! I'm jacked to the tits!
Good.
Do you feel it?
No.
Well, that's extremely convenient.
What'd you hear, Tony?
Okay, let's get into it.
The Fed has gone further than we have ever dreamed. They are buying individual corporate bonds. Allow me to put it bluntly. They're literally bailing out corporations. Big companies take their debt, package it up, and sell it off to investors. If the company is higher risk, you could get more yield, but you could lose out.
So he basically just explained junk bonds, and so the U.S. is already buying debt of these bad companies, and I think that's already signaling a lot of these bonds are already defaulting. Yeah,
they're at that percent where.
Yeah, so the government's trying to bail them out so that people don't lose all of their savings.
Or what? Yeah, maybe they're
right.
Even college kids funds that got wiped out. I know some people like the 562 or whatever.
Yeah.
Any savings accounts that people were.
It's about to be wiped out. Let's keep watching this.
Thank goodness I hide my cash in my mat. I'm just kidding.
Very stable, the yields would generally be lower. Now with the Fed there buying it all up, the natural market pricing is no longer a consideration. Nothing has risk. The worst piece of garbage suddenly becomes the next hot trend. The Fed has accelerated the madness. The Federal Reserve is expanding its foray into corporate credit to now buy individual corporate bonds on top of the exchange-traded funds it is already buying. This is part of an announcement, which I'll show you in just a second here, but essentially taking this a step further, or so it seems. As part of a continuing effort to support market functioning and ease credit conditions, the Fed added functions to its secondary market corporate credit facility. Okay, you might see that reference as SMCCF. The program has the ability to buy up to $750 billion worth of corporate credit. And if you know anything about any central bank, it's that these numbers here tend to grow. They're printing more money now than they have ever done before. And this.
So basically what this is a bailout. They say this program has the ability to buy up 750 billion worth of corporate credit. It's basically junk bonds. So it's a $750 billion bailout for the companies that should be going bankrupt. Okay, let's keep going.
But a lot of them are doing the bankruptcy, the chapters 11s.
Yeah,
because they have to announce it.
Right, but this is signaling something different. It's signaling that all of these bonds that were how much money can we print to keep these bonds, these bad bonds up, you know?
It's the Feds. It's our central bank. They can print as many. It's digital.
I know. So let's keep going. Yeah, let's keep watching.
Zero.
The treasuries, with the mortgage-backed securities, with municipal bonds, with corporate bonds. This is a bailout of the corporations out there This is the press release directly from the Federal Reserve's website. Federal Reserve Board announces updates to the SMCCF, which will begin buying a, quote, broad and diversified portfolio of corporate bonds to support market liquidity and the availability of credit for large employers. Now think about this. Did they buy your debt? Are they buying your debt? The answer is no, and that's why big businesses, the mega corporations, always win.
So when he asks, are they buying your debt? Think about student debt is like 1.5 trillion. And it's like, how much do we spend on like the airlines, like, and like the cruise industry? It's like the Fed's job is to buy debt, and they could easily wipe out all of student debt or student loan debt in the United States, and they're not. And that's what he's saying. It's like, are they buying your debt? Are they helping you?
Not personal. Yeah.
Yeah, and the answer is no. So that's what he's saying. That's the infuriating part, is he's saying they can and they choose not to.
It's not that they said, remember, they passed the buck. They're like, we can make the money or we can pay, but Congress is the one.
The Fed can buy debt, so they can buy all of student loan, that bad asset. But they're not. They're choosing to buy. They're to spend it on like credit or like on 750. That's half a student debt. The national student debt right there.
But we know it's going to go up. It already went up.
No, exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's what he's saying. He's saying they could spend.
And they're still firing their workers.
Yeah, he's saying they're spending the money on corporations, not on people, and they could spend it on people, but they're not.
Well, their idea is that these corporations are supposed to take care of their people, and they're not taking care of their people either.
Well, yeah.
It's like, so what? The government says they'll give it to the corporation. The corporation says the government should take care of the people. No one's going to take care of the people then?
Yeah, and they're not even giving direct assistance to people. They're doing it in the form of they're buying it in the form of bad debt from the companies.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So even the way it affects people is still indirect.
Yes, it is always indirect. They've been told this will help people keep their jobs, but then or keep their homes, but it didn't. Like, they always found a way around it.
I know. I mean, yeah. So Congress could spend it, but they could.
I don't.
Yeah, there's no the argument that it's too expensive before, it just doesn't exist, because how much do they spend? How much do they continue to spend on companies?
We have no money. We have no money for PPE. We have no money for, it's like, whoa, all of a sudden you have a lot of money for.
Yeah, to keep the stock market up.
This really summarizes
rich people.
All right, so yeah, let's keep going with this clip.
The way that I've been thinking about it, and you can see here, imagine if the Fed, via taxpayer-funded Treasury SPV, backstopped the debt of Enron and WorldCom back in the early 2000s. Both of these companies were, quote, fallen angels that employed a lot of people. So you could make that argument back then. Well, you know what? They've got problems, but because the risk is too great, we're going to bail them out. And today, they would be bailed out. But back then, they let them fail. Interesting how so much has changed in a period of 20 years.
I know. Why is that? Why do we not let companies go bankrupt anymore? Is it because the people who have equity in the companies, they have too much influence? That must be it. All of a sudden,
they're always gonna find ways to try to keep it alive.
The game became what is that? Capital gains.
Yes.
And so they're like, if we can keep
your money work for you.
Yeah. Okay. So let's keep going with this clip, because there's 3 more minutes.
This was the 60 Minutes interview with Jerome Powell recently, and I just had to add it in here. I mean, I'm pretty sure I talked about this one before.
Jerome Powell is the guy...
The chair of the Federal Reserve. The chairman of the Federal Reserve.
Has the ability to...
Yeah, to print and buy debt. So he was the one instructing Congress, you need to give people money, because Congress has the ability to spend money. So they're the ones that can authorize spending to the United States. Yes, the Federal Reserve can only buy debt. And so that's why I'm saying the Federal Reserve can wipe out student debt. They can easily buy it, but they choose not to. And so this is him explaining how it works, I guess. And
defending.
No, just explaining how it works.
Oh, okay.
It starts off with Powell speaking, and then it goes to the interviewer. We are not trying to move markets to a particular level. I could agree with that, except up being the direction. We just want them to work. We want, people to be buying and selling. And so, it felt like we really needed to act, and we did. And that alone, I could rant on for 10 minutes. But regardless, so the interviewer says, fair to say you simply flooded the system with money? Powell, yes, we did. That's another way to think about it. We did. The interviewer says, where does it come from? You just print it? Powell said, we print it digitally. So as a central bank, we have the ability to create money digitally, and we do that by buying treasury bills or bonds for other government guaranteed securities, and that actually increases the money supply. We also print
So they
actual
buy bonds.
currency.
That's what it is. And the bonds is the grouping of the loans, the debt.
Mm-hmm.
And so as long
And that
as
money
you
is
put it into a bond, you can get the government to buy it.
well, yeah.
And that's how you get money from the government.
Yeah.
How do we make bonds?
That through the Federal Reserve banks. What the Federal Reserve does as a whole, never mind all the little nuances, is not understood by the vast majority of people. That's why they just go ahead with anything and nobody says a thing. People in Congress don't care. They're worried about this and that. The corporations certainly don't care because they're benefiting from it. And the average individual, even those who are supposedly aware of all this, they've got so many other things on their plate. They're not going to say anything either. This is a big problem. The ignorance will destroy people. I want to make something very clear, and this
We
is
just assumed our government had our backs.
I mean, I think you assume
For the most part. Or the
people are specialized and the person who's doing their job knows what they're doing. Then you realize all these people don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, I guess that they've lost sight of what they were supposed to be doing.
Yeah. So he's going to describe Hertz, who recently filed, I think. Let's take a look at this.
Yeah, June 15, 2020.
With Hertz. I've talked about this before. We have to understand what goes on with a company going through bankruptcy. The equity holders often get screwed over. They get nothing in the end. And I want to highlight that directly from the SEC website, where we have this here. Hertz themselves talking about what may happen. Right at the bottom, we are in the process of a reorganization under Chapter 11 of Title 11 or Chapter 11 of the United States Code, Bankruptcy Code, which has caused and may continue to cause our common stock to decrease in value or may render our common stock worthless. Worthless. Does everybody understand? They're buying in. People are buying into this thing. After it came down, they went in and they bought the dip. The stock has been volatile, but it has moved up as a result. And essentially what people have been doing is handing this off to the next sucker. That's what they're trying to do. The problem is what's going to occur here is that the stock might be end up worthless and you might be left holding this garbage.
So I think he just...
So paper notes that you can't do anything with.
I think he just explained the market volatility that we've been seeing. You know, it was like, is it a bear market? Is it a bull market? And people are saying it's a kangaroo market. I think we're seeing so much volatility because people keep selling, and obviously people keep buying, but people don't want to be the last one basically holding the bag of
it's like
worthless.
Hot potato.
Because he said, okay, so what he said basically was the people who get hurt most during a bankruptcy is the equity holders, basically people who own shares or stocks of the company. Right. And so if the stocks are going to go to zero because the company is insolvent, then the shares go to zero because there's nothing, the company is not working anything.
Sell, right? Or they can't sell.
What do you mean?
Right now. When is it that they can't sell it? Because they're selling it to each other or whoever because the bankruptcy is going to happen, right?
No, I know, but they did this all pre-bankruptcy. So a lot of people that bought into the dip, that was a lot of other investors that was holding it that knew what was going to happen, unloading it on these suckers.
Before the bankruptcy was going to
Yeah, so these people who bought into the dip thought it was going to go up, but then the company went bankrupt and all of a sudden these guys are holding what they thought was going to be valuable, ended up being worthless.
Yes.
So
that's how stocks work.
And so, but they're not always properly rated, which is the problem.
Yes. It's like, where do these ratings come from?
And so The Big Short again. Where do these ratings come from? They come from Moody's, Standard & Poor's. These are the rating agencies that rate these bonds.
Oh, so they're kind of like the what are the like TransUnion or for the personal like rating FICO scores.
Yeah.
They do like the DMB or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I know. We've had to do that for.
So.
But who's haphazardly giving them so much money?
The government, apparently.
Oh yeah, because we just went over that.
Yeah.
They've got failing bonds, and someone needs to buy them. Government will buy them up.
So we saw how this is very similar to the 2008. The 2008 crash. And so let's take a look at what happens when the writing is on the wall, but still, like, the market indicators make no sense, right?
Well, like, what's the delay?
Exactly. What's the delay?
Is it 90 days?
No. What's the delay? Exactly. What's the delay?
Days?
So let's take a look at this clip.
No, but it's going to happen.
I know, but exactly, it's going to happen. So let's take a look at what happened in The Big Short while... like these big banks like Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers were going out of business.
Once the industry leader, by the way, filed for bankruptcy, the company immediately, good time for my voice to go, fired 3,200 workers. The manufacturing index also fell in the month of March, warning that economic growth could slow. Now, the Institute of Supply Management also reported a rise in prices.
I'm going to call my mom.
Bear Stearns liquidates
Those guys are going to make a lot of money, though.
Yes.
You can't call me back for a week.
Sorry, is that a spoiler?
I'm so sorry, Mike. Goldman had a systems failure. I lost a ton of messages.
Yeah, B of A said they had a power outage.
So this guy, that Christian Bale character, he is he's playing this guy named Michael Berry who shorted the housing market, the mortgage bonds, mortgage security bonds.
How do you do that? By buying, what did they call them?
A future on, because you think the price is going to go. Well, he did it through a credit default swap, and so you can look that up later. Yeah,
that's what they bought. They wanted to sell their whatever and buy swaps.
Right. So
I was like, what?
Now that these companies have gone down, Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers, he's like, why isn't my insurance on this bond? Why can't I cash it out? And so he's been calling all these banks because he bought like a ridiculous amount, like $1 trillion or something worth of swaps, or a lot of money. And so
giving his money away.
And these banks have been giving him the runaround basically for like a week. And so they finally
can't cash him out.
Yeah, and they finally returned his call. So let's take a look at this clip.
Stanley said the server crashed.
Huh. That's weird.
Yeah, I would call it improbable. So, where do you have our position marked?
I think it's the same, Mike.
What? Can you explain that to me, please? Because how can the value of an insurance contract not be affected by the demise of the very thing it insures?
They're independent markets. They're not always correlated. I know it sounds odd, but these are very complicated products.
They are correlated.
So basically,
She said we're in a what market?
They're in different markets.
Oh.
And so basically what happened is these mortgage bonds are going under because these companies that built them are going bankrupt. Mm-hmm. And he's saying, how could my position not have moved when
you insured them and they're going under. I mean
right. It's like if they're going under, how? Yeah, and it's infuriating because
because it takes a while to get to that level. There's a whole bunch of layers it has to move to get to the effect, and it you can see it in the bonds.
Okay, well let's see what he thinks the explanation is, because he's gonna get another call.
Listening.
Dr. Berry?
Yeah.
Steve Winston, Goldman Sachs. Listen, I've been reviewing your position. I wanted to discuss your marks, make sure they're fair.
Yeah, I think you mean that you've secured a net short position yourselves, so you're free to mark my swaps accurately for once, because it's now in your interest to do so.
Well, now they can cash them out. They didn't have money before. If they were.
I'm not sure what you want me to say.
I think you've already said it.
So basically,
right?
it seems like we're going to enter a volatile market until the banks have assured a secure position for themselves. And then we're going to see whatever the correction should be. You know, because right now it's like up and down and everywhere, and no one knows if it's going, like, when it's going to settle. Right. And it's not going to settle.
I mean, what is that?
Yeah, it's not going to settle until the banks have secured their positions. And then once they do, everything's going to crash.
Well, they'll understand where it's going, so they have to make money from it, not lose money. Otherwise, they can't.
Well, the moral of the story is do not buy into CLOs.
What? Oh, I know. Oh my God. I don't think we have that money.
Oh my gosh.
Or do we? Because then we can make them and then sell them to the government.
I know. We need to sell stuff to the government. That's how you make money. Anyways.
Be the government.
Be the government. That's what CHAZ is trying to do. Oh my God, they figured it out. Anyways. Well, we had another story, but I think we'll save it for tomorrow because I got to pee. Anyways.
Oh, no.
I had fun. I hope you guys did too. We'll see you tomorrow. Remember to take your coronavirus
prophylaxis.
Yes, it prevents coronavirus infections.
To help reduce coronavirus receptor sites, so the virus can't bond to your. They said it's mutating, got more receptor sites.
Well, that just means you got.
The virus does.
You just got to smoke other types of weed.
More weed.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna have to start dabbing.
And if you don't have buds, we're your buds. See you tomorrow. Take care.
Stay safe.